very short bus.
Roasters. The old ejecto seat chair.
Good morning and welcome to the Hodge Pack, sports, life, and everything in between. Right here on 106.9 The Country Giant. We're brought to you by Lytle Land and Cattle. Our guest up here on our Pest Patrol phone line. And we've got a ton of stuff going on today. It's good to be back. Shout out to Jones on figuring out a way to get this place cool. Josh and Misty and Greg were set to be on the air last week, and it was a little toasty, from what I'm understanding. I'm guessing, Josh, if it was what it is outside in the hallway, in here, you would have passed out. Because the week before,
It was high 80s in here the week before, and I was not having it. But according to Greg, it was 97 degrees in the studio when we talked about it on Thursday, whether we'd have the show or not. And I said, nope.
Yeah. Well, I already told people, it's like,
Said I don't have time to go shower after the show before I go to work, so we're going to skip out on that.
Again. Because, and again, I love Josh, I love Misty, and I'm like, I don't want to have that Seinfeld episode where Misty and I are looking at each other. I think we're going to have to do CPR.
Yeah.
Heat stroke, definitely. So, but it's good in here. The green room out in the hallway, not so much. So, good thing that our Big Country Electric My Town segment will be on our Pest Patrol phone line. Wayne Hutchinson, which is ironic. I want to say, I don't know if he'll laugh about it. Wayne Hutchinson will start right into it. One of our headlines is that we've been gone for 2 weeks because we were at the WAPT at Fairway. It was a great time. And then this last week was not Snowmageddon, but there's a race in Wichita Falls called the Hotter and Hell Bike Race. That might have been right here in North 3rd. But anyway, Wayne Hutchinson, who led the Stanford Bulldogs to 2 state championships, is coming out of retirement, kind of Mac Brown-like, and he kind of has Captain Good hair as well as, Mac Brown. And he's coming out of retirement to go back to Stanford. Laney Templeton, who was the baseball coach there for Coach Hutch for a long time, is coming out of retirement as well. And so, but Coach Hutchinson will join us at 8 o'clock in our Big Country Electric My Town segment a little bit later. But it is good to be back. There's a lot of things that have happened, Josh. We are literally 2 days, I guess we count today, 3 days away from being halfway done with the baseball season. A lot to talk about. We'll talk about the Texas Rangers in our weekly report in our next segment. But a lot of stuff going on. And really, when July gets here, it's weird to talk about it. It's kind of like school's coming. Football's coming. We're 62 days away from opening day, but we're just 13 days, I believe, away from training camps and starting to feel like we get excited and all that. And the storylines of Aaron Rodgers is not going to be in Green Bay. It's going to be Jordan Love. And what's he going to do in New York and all the things. And so we're kind of weaning out of baseball Hades, if you will, even though it's what it feels like out in the hall. But the Texas Rangers are kind of making it better for us.
No, they are. It's I mean, it at least draws your attention to the TV for better or worse. Recently, we can talk about that in the next segment.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I got to go watch my first game this past week. Tracy and I did, and so that was fun. And it was fun for about 9 innings. Actually, it was about fun for about 8.5 innings, and then we'll talk about that again as well. A lot of Rangers, a lot of baseball stuff to talk about. I want to get Josh's take on, I think, one of the funniest arguments that would probably have made Luke Piniella very proud a little bit later on. But let's dive into our Wausau headline report. A lot of golf going on. I want to talk about it just briefly. The U.S. Women's Open is out at Pebble Beach. First time ever being played at Pebble Beach. And Haiju Kim at 4 under and Lynn at 4 under. Allison Corpus at 3 under out there at Pebble Beach. Really cool. Primetime golf. Was watching that last night. So the ladies U.S. Open happening there. And just watching the coverage, they were talking about that. That is kind of like their Masters. That is their big major. So U.S. Open for the ladies out at Pebble Beach this weekend. John Deere, one of the things about the John Deere Classic in Illinois is always exciting. If somebody wins, the last spot open for the British Open can be picked up there. And Jonas Blix shot a 62 yesterday, 9 under, leading. And Cameron Young, who our buddy Paul Tesori is on the bag for him, shot 6 under. So hopefully Paul and Cameron can get rolling and finish great today and head into the British Open. The other thing that was funny that I want to talk about, Josh, and I know you're a big live guy. I know you like to subscribe to the CW. I thought this was funny. Brooks Koepka accuses live teammate Matt Wolff of quitting. And he says this, I quote, "I mean, when you quit on your round, you give up and stuff like that. That's not competing. I'm not a big fan of that. You don't work hard. It's very tough. It's very tough to have even like a team dynamic when you've got one guy that won't work. One guy is not going to give any effort. He's going to quit on the course, break clubs, get down. Bad body language is very tough." And the end quote, he says, "I've basically given up on him," is what Brooks Koepka said about Matt Wolff. Now, Josh, when I read that, my first thought was, why should Matt Wolff work hard? Why should he practice? Because he's going to get paid.
Right.
Why grind and do anything when you're going to get a check? Now, if I play well and then I maybe make a little more money like Taylor Gooch did the other day and won $4 million for a tournament and all that, that's why I think Brooks Koepka is probably not having near as much fun on the live as he might be in the other. But it made me laugh when he said he doesn't work hard. Why practice unless you're practicing for a major that you might get in later?
Well, I mean, I guess that is the downside of having a guaranteed contract on a dying entity. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about them upping his contract again because it's going away.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, I guess you might want to better yourself for a spot on PGA in the future. I mean, or the live / PGA or whatever.
The live.
I don't know. I don't know what.
I don't know. I just thought that was funny that we've got our first Draymond Green, Jordan Poole fight on the live tour. So yeah, stay tuned to that. Josh, do you think if you saw Britney Spears today, you would know who she is? I've not Googled an image of what she looks like today, but if you saw Britney Spears, do you think she would stand out in a way that she? Because Garth Brooks has been playing a long time, I think he would stand out. Carrie Underwood, probably different story, stand out. I'm trying to think.
I mean, you said Garth Brooks would stand out. I've seen Garth Brooks on TV enough recently, and just in random different things that I would recognize him. But he doesn't exactly look like the cover of a Rope in the Wind.
Right.
I mean, Britney Spears, I would imagine, because I haven't seen her recently either. I mean, I guess she pops up on social media things every so often, but I bet if you saw her, you'd be like, that lady kind of looks like Britney Spears.
Well, because I would think, like, in somebody that went and saw Shania Twain recently said she still looked great and all that. But the reason I bring that up is the NBA's in Vegas, Summer League's going on, and Britney Spears sees Victor Wembanyama, number 1 draft pick, walks up to and touches him, taps him, and the security slaps her in the face and knocks her glasses off. Ends up a big commotion. She's going to file some type of thing against their people. She should. I mean, I don't think that's the proper reaction to how that goes down. But even if it is a normal person,
even that's what I'm saying.
You don't just
if it was
slap
just
the
some
crap
random
out of somebody.
lady, like you don't. I mean, you could say step away, you step in between them, but slapping them in the face. I mean,
well, and in today's time, when everybody's so quick to, I'm sure somebody, even though that you have to be a quick draw McGraw to get your phone out, somebody probably has filmed it, or the cameras in the casino or the restaurant or wherever they were walking to probably saw it. So the reason I think it's a headline, I don't think it's funny at all that Britney got hit. I think that it's interesting that the 7'5" guy says that he just kept walking and didn't know really who touched him until later, like he was just this god, if you will, walking through. And I'm like, dude, first of all, again, we can Google an image. Maybe she got a school photo of 2023, and we can see what Britney looks like. But I just think it's interesting. And she was trying, and it says in the article here on ESPN.com that she was trying to get his attention to get a picture. And I mean, he's 7'5". I'm sure Britney's probably 5'2" or something But I just think I just thought that was a very interesting thing. Of and then Victor said I was just trying to go and enjoy a dinner. Uh, because here's the thing, Josh, when you're the number one draft pick and they're the latest phenom probably since LeBron James with all the hype around you, people are going to come up and try to get your photo.
Right.
You're going to people are going to go up and try to tap you on the probably the knee because they can't reach any higher. And so I just think that I hope they can find a way to. They need if they're smart. Victor's PR people are making a phone call. Brittany, we're sorry.
Yeah.
Let's get together. Let's do a Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger, short person, tall person photo, something. But anyway, weird stuff. And so Victor, note to self: don't mess with Victor's security team because they will hit you, baby, one more time. Other NBA news: Mavs signed Kyrie Irving and also acquired Grant Williams. So we'll see what happens with the Mavs going on there. So lots to cover. We got our Texas Rangers baseball report coming up next. We'll look at some other parts about baseball. Again, we head into the All-Star break. Garcia is going to be in the All-Star in the Home Run Derby. Is that a good thing, bad thing? I'll tell you my thoughts on it. Josh will get his. But again, that's our Lawrence Hall headline report. So be sure to check out Lawrence Hall if you need a new or used car, truck, or SUV or service done. Go check out Jim and his folks in the service department. They will get you taken care of. When we come back, the Texas Rangers, I threw it out. Are they going to be in first place heading into the All-Star break? The Astros are coming. Altuve goes to the injured list. Mike Trout on the shelf. A lot of things opening up. What will the Rangers do as we get ready to end the first half of the regular season? We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Hodgeback Sports Life and everything in between. We're glad that you're with us as we got folks texting us.
I thought you froze for a second.
Well, I did. Dad's texting me his inside, and feel free to text 325-660-0406 if you've got your thoughts on
If
Rangers.
you want to stall the show out completely, just keep texting. That's good advice.
Yeah, good advice. Text away, and we'll share your stuff. But it is time for our Texas Rangers weekly report and looking across not only the Texas Rangers but baseball in general as we head into, as I mentioned, the All-Star break is coming. Means we're halfway through, and now the pressure, as the lady that I mentioned a few weeks ago said, is normally the stage of when we start asking, are the Rangers for real? We'll start next weekend as the Indians come to town. Josh, we have now seen a little bit of a skid for the Rangers. They are 4-6 in their last 10. They are at 51-37, 2 games ahead of the Houston Astros. And we have started to see some issues that have kind of continued to show. Dad's take is runners left on base are killing the Rangers. But do you want to end with good news because of the All-Stars, or do you want to start with All-Stars? Because,
I mean,
this is kind of your spot. I mean,
there's actually so much baseball to talk about that I could peek out on it and go for a long time because it's very interesting and just across the board, because the Rangers have, they were at one time 40-20, and now they're 51 and 37. So that means 11-17 currently. So that's obviously not very good. The underlying numbers of that, when you look at it, it is a runners in scoring position. It's a sequencing problem, if because that's really what it boils down to. That first stretch of games, where there were 20 games over 500, they were by far and away the best hitting team with runners in scoring position. When you look at the individual stats and you break out the stats just as a whole, they have not faltered that much from when they were really hot. It's just been a sequencing problem. It's been getting that hit when they need the hit versus, having, they left 22 runners on base like earlier this last week in one particular game, and that just didn't happen earlier in the season. So I'm not, the sky is definitely not falling. You say, like, are the Rangers for real? They're definitely for real. I mean, they are a playoff contender. Just by the fact that they had 50 games, like they were on pace for 98 wins at the exact halfway mark in the season, and they've now won, they're still on a 90-something win pace, so that means you're a real team. If the Astros get it together and they've already closed some gap there, they're 2 games behind. So even if the Astros pass the Rangers and the Rangers don't win the division, no one expected them to win the division. So it's like they're still very much viable and very, very much an integral part of what's going to happen in the second half of the season.
I will say, they talked about it. We actually ran into this in the Wiley and Argyle game, and I've said it over and over. Is that I think the third quarter is going to matter in a lot of games. How you come out of halftime,
right?
I do think that's going to matter. I don't think they've got to go just gangbusters and just go on a Cincinnati Reds run. But I do think how they come off of that, you've got guys that are going to go from Washington, the other Washington side of the world, into Seattle for the All-Star game, have those festivities, do those things, maybe get rejuvenated. Bruce Bochy don't have to walk out to the mound anymore for a few days, gets that break, and go from there. I will tell you, so Josh, last week, I got to watch more Rangers than I've got to watch in a long time. Not while we were in Costa Rica because, well, there was no way to do that. But went to the Ranger game, got to enjoy a Ranger Astros atmosphere, if you will. Got to see I took your advice. We didn't get first row on the right field. We got second row, but we were right there. Saw Adonis Chapman. Oh my goodness! If Rangers get done, go over to the AT&T Stadium. I think we can find a spot for you on the Cowboys.
Yeah, he looks like a defensive end.
Oh, that dude's huge. But I thought that was interesting. Don't get me wrong. Garcia hit a home run. It was a lot of cool things. But I was kind of impressed with, and I'm going to look over here, Jankowski. He had a great game that day.
He did.
So some of the non-All-Star guys are starting to contribute a little bit. I've said Jonah Heim looks like an older version of Luke Greer. If Luke will start growing some type of facial hair. So it was fun to be in the stadium, number one. Number two, it was a great atmosphere. It felt like at times when I went to go get Tracy that lemon chill or Bahama Bucks thing, you didn't know if the roar was an Astro roar or if a Texas roar. But the atmosphere was good, and it was a hot son of a buck. It would have been very bad to be across the street. But I say all that in some of those other guys that were playing that day, Tavares and some of those that contributed, and Tavares hit the first home run to kind of get things going. Honestly, that's what made me enjoy it more, was that the guys that weren't heading to the All-Star game are contributing and helping too.
Well, yeah, they're a good team, and Jankowski's one of those guys that's having a career year. Like he's bounced around a little bit. He's a speed and defense guy, but he's hitting this year. And he's walking, and it's mainly because he's being used in the right place. They're platooning him. He's a left-handed hitter. They hit him exclusively against right-handed hitters, and that's kind of allowed him to thrive a little bit and be a part. And really, when you talk about a team that, if you look at all the teams that make deep runs in the playoffs, whether it's past Rangers teams or the Dodgers, the Astros, the Yankees, those teams have role players that can step up in a big moment, and that's something that probably more than basketball or even football, that it's harder in baseball, other than a starting pitcher, for one player to really carry the game, because you don't know when there's 2 outs with the runner on second, you don't just automatically get to send Corey Seager up there. It's
right.
Whoever's next in the order.
Right.
So it's
and that's what was impressive in that game. That again, unfortunately, the Rangers ended up doing such a great job coming back and losing. Was that the bottom of the lineup was really kind of the catalyst that started any kind of run and kind of a comeback in that game. And so, but as we've looked into this past week, they've got they lost 2 out of 3 with Boston, lost the series with the Astros, heading into Washington, another team that's struggling. That, in my opinion, find a way to win 2, or if not, sweep them.
A sweep would be great, but anything less than a series win is a great disappointment against a bad team.
Right, because you don't want to head into the All-Star break with any kind of bitter taste unless it can fire you up. It does leave you with a kind of a tough, the old bitter face.
Right. Well, and like we said, there is a sequencing issue. But if you look at, if you want to say, the Rangers are struggling, like I said, they're 11-17 over their last little stretch, which is not good. But if you look at those 17 losses, the thing that sticks out, if you break it down and look at it, and last night's game being a perfect example, the game that we Aroldis Chapman came in and was lights out, and then Will Smith blew a save. And I'm really not upset terribly about that, because Will Smith, that's only his second blown save this year. The best closers in baseball have, unless you're Mariano Rivera or Eric Gagne when he was on his streak, the best have 3 or 4 at least a year. So that is not something to really hang your head on. It's that kind of as they refer to, the soft underbelly of the relief corps for the Rangers, which blew it last night. You could maybe get on Bruce Bochy for some of his management of that, but the thing is, if you really just have a couple, 3 guys in your bullpen that you can count on, you can't play them every day. I mean, you've got to have other parts, and that's why when you look at those losses, at least half of those losses were bullpen problems. And then the runners in scoring position, obviously you could change that around, and they wouldn't even be close in games. And that's what they were doing to people in the first of the season. But I think the runners in scoring position thing will rectify itself. The team will get hot, and people will click where those hits string together instead of being so spread out.
Well, Bradford came in the game that we watched and had some good innings. I think the thing that's frustrating, it's kind of like Steve Nash, who was a great free throw shooter, shot 80-90% from the free throw line and just happened to miss 2 at the end of a game. And you remember those 2.
Right.
I think the frustrating part about the Chapman coming in and dominating, and then Will Smith coming in and pulling off, what happened there. It was that there was such a big effort to get back into that game, go ahead in that game,
right,
and then give it back up.
And that is incredibly frustrating. And it is part of the bigger problem that the not having multiple reliable bullpen pieces is the biggest weakness that this team has. But as we saw with acquiring Chapman, who, he walks too many people, so that can be a problem, especially if you bring him in with people on base, because if he starts an inning fresh, he walks a guy, no one's getting hits off of him. And the batting average against is like laughably low. So it's like, yeah, you can get around that walk when nothing else happens. But if you have guys on base, you walk a guy, even if that just pushes a guy from first to second, that's one of those things. Well, then, as we saw last night in an inning that I guess it was Evaldi started was pitching, but not a bad inning. He walked a guy, gave up some soft contact for a base hit, and then there were 2 straight ground balls that scored a run. So we're like, no one really hit the ball hard, but that walk.
But they did just enough to move it
out. It's like, so 2 outs ended up producing a run, and that's the way it goes sometimes. But you don't have walking people out of the bullpen makes it hard to put them in. Like last night when they kind of fell behind, some people were chatting on our text. Well, they should have put Chapman in. It's hard to put Chapman in a situation where that walk might really come back and bite you, because that is his weak point. Spores had to come out to rescue Burke, and then Spores had to come back for the second inning. Then the wheels came off. And Spores has been really good, but I think having to go back out in an inning just kind of messes with that. And so you can nitpick that stuff, but when Spores had to come into the 6th, you still had the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and you just had ostensibly Chapman and Smith to try to get those 3 innings. So it kind of made Spores have to come back. So that all goes back to not having enough depth in the bullpen.
And I know we're going to go to break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about that, and I want to get some All-Star talk as the All-Star break is coming. We've got a ton of Rangers in the All-Star game. Again, Garcia. And I want to get Josh's take on a couple of foul ball. We were at the game Monday, which was an odd thing in itself, having a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday finish. Yeah. But want to talk about that All-Star break. Misty is on her way. She'll be joining us. We'll have her bag. Again, Coach Hodge at the top of at the 8 o'clock hour for our My Town segment as he comes out of retirement, brief retirement, to coach the Bulldogs again and see if he can bring them back and take him back to Jerry World. Speaking of Jerry Jones, there's a Netflix documentary coming out. We'll talk about that later. But when we come back, more baseball talk, All-Star game coming, and what should you do if a foul ball or a home run comes into your section? We'll be back. There should be 2 with no sheet.
All right. very true that if you're not a top prospect, you have to work that much harder to ever really get your dues, if that makes sense.
Welcome back to the Hodgeback as we keep rocking and rolling here in hour number one of our great Friday morning, July 7th. Hope you had a great July 4th. It fell on a Tuesday. Hope you had either a weekend of fun or the day of fun, all the things, fireworks, and so far didn't see anything crazy happen, so that's good.
It's made for a weird week, though, when you start your week on. I took Monday off. Start my week on Wednesday, and even if you didn't take Monday off, having a random day off in the middle.
On Tuesday was weird, yeah.
Yesterday when it was Thursday, I kept having this really I think I had a couple deals closing today, Friday, and I kept thinking they were farther away for some reason. Like I had a few days to work on that, but I was like, wait, it's Thursday.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time, and so I feel for those of you that. Well, first of all, thank you for those that had to work on the 4th. But yes, that when that holiday lands, it's weird. The hot dog contest got canceled, so that didn't happen because of rain. Even weather can cause a hot dog contest to not happen. And so one of the contests that's happened is the All-Star game is coming up in the Home Run Derby. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I wanted to throw it out again. Josh, we've got a ton of All-Star guys that are coming to Seattle for from the Rangers. Like I mentioned, Garcia, selected as a reserve, is going to go ahead and participate in the Home Run Derby. To me, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game is the only one that still seems relevant to watch. The Home Run Derby has some festivities. I'm sure King Griffey Jr. is going to be involved in the festivities for the day. Prettiest swing I think we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff fun about the Major League Baseball All-Star break and All-Star Game as opposed to the Pro Bowl and to the NBA All-Star Game. So what Peter Alonso, I want to just dive into it. First of all, we want to thank those that listen. Josh promoted the Rangers to go vote. We want to kind of give credit to you, the Hodgeback listeners, for getting all those Rangers on the All-Star team. We got 6. Is that correct? 6 of them on. We've got a few starters, and so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, four voted in as starters. I said, poor Nate Lowe was the only guy on the Rangers infield that didn't make the All-Star team, and the only one that didn't get selected as a starter.
So that's fun. Again, headed to Seattle, all those things. But the Home Run Derby is going to happen on Monday. And Josh, Pete Alonso, I was watching some baseball, and he was getting interviewed. They started interviewing players while they're in the field.
Right.
And they were talking to Alonso, and he was asking about, said he was going to participate in it again, and asking who he's going to throw to. And he said he's got one of his old coaches that he made a promise to a long time ago. If I ever make it big, he said, hey, if you ever make it, you're to let me, can I throw it? So he's honoring that promise back to a coach. Josh, if you were going to be in the All-Star Home Run Derby and you had the ability to, drop bombs 400 feet, who would you have to throw to?
Well, I guess that depends. If I was a serious competitor that was looking to win, it would be probably one of the coaches on the current coaching staff that I felt like threw the best batting practice, or even a teammate, or whoever's throwing you batting practice week in, week out. Like when you're just pre-gaming and stuff like that.
But if
whoever did the best.
But if you were going to bring somebody, and I'll kind of make this like a Misty's bag question, which would be coming up, if you had to have a sentimental type person come throw to you.
Well, there's people that brought their dad before. That would be cool. I mean, it would just. But you've also that would be awesome. But you've also seen people that brought that old sentimental one back that didn't throw very well. Had a little trouble keeping it consistently in the right place. I
would.
But like last year, you think about Corey Seager. I don't remember who it was that threw to him, but he kind of had a hard time getting a rhythm going because the pitch speed was a little bit of a struggle at the first.
When you think about rhythm, when I think about rhythm, I think of shooters in basketball.
Yeah.
Like if Steph Curry could be in rhythm and just the same spot
just
every time,
over and over, just right.
on repeat, that's who you'd want.
Yeah, because you want to feed the ball with one hand, throw it with the other. Can't be shuffling to try to find the balls.
You literally you want to get in a rhythm like you would at Gaddy's when you're like trying to win the tickets and get as many tickets.
Right. In the old days of the home run derby, when they did the 10 out thing, you could take a few without, I didn't like that one, but now it's time. So it's about just putting it in the right place over and over and over again. So that would be a hard choice, but it would be also a choice that, you'd have to think, am I winning this thing? Is the difference in a couple home runs that I might not hit because the pitches aren't as good going to be what puts me over the top? I don't know that anyone's going into it thinking they're not going to win, but that would be interesting.
Well, and you look at the names on here, and Alonso, big name, but like Mookie Betts, I think Vladimir Guerrero doing it. I think that is good. Of course, Julio Rodriguez, the Mariner.
The Julio Rodriguez one, that bothers me. He's just a homer pick. That's the only reason he's there. He's had a terrible season.
So, is there another Mariner that should be?
No,
you've got to have a Mariner.
The Mariners have not had a good season. I mean,
I will say this.
But that's not putting the best guy out there. It's just like, we got to get a Mariner. He was good last year, but he's terrible this year.
But I will say,
and he could come out and win it. I'm not saying that won't happen.
The old Mariners jerseys, the old blue helmet, the blue hat with the yellow. They were wearing them last weekend when they were playing. I believe it was the Nats. That's one of my still favorite jerseys out there is the King Griffey era Seattle Mariners jerseys. So anyway, All-Star game coming up. You've got Jonah Heim, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Young, Garcia,
and Evaldi.
So you got some Rangers. Be a lot of fun. Now, Josh, I want to throw this out. Again, we were at the Ranger game last week. And Misty's not here yet to talk about dress because certain people were wearing things that should not be worn to a baseball game. That's not here. Josh, what is the appropriate etiquette if we were in the outfield, so it was a home run that was hit in our direction? What do you think the etiquette is if the home run ball or the foul ball comes to you? Because that's one of those things you want. That's a souvenir you can't buy. That's a souvenir, and there was no 715th home run going to be hit that day.
Yeah,
there's no record.
Got a ball that's worth several $1,000s.
Yes, no. So a home run ball goes over us. Kind of hits the person, trying to catch it. Boom, bounces, trickles down, and it lands right by this lady who didn't even have to move. A kid almost was there to get it, but the lady gets it. She gets excited. I'm not saying she hates baseball, loves baseball, doesn't have a clue. Guy next to her has kids. Offers to buy it from her. Even buy it from her. It's a random home run boy. Doesn't even remember who did it. She was like, no, she didn't do it. Another kid was behind her, looked kind of sad. He didn't get the ball either. What do you do? What is home run?
Well,
foul ball.
This is a tough question. A tough question because I've been to I don't know. I can't even put a number on how many Rangers games that I've been to. There were multiple years in a row, especially before I had kids, that I bought mini season tickets, the 20 game plan quarter season. So I've been to a lot of games, and I've never caught a foul ball or a home run ball at a game. I've been close. I've had people that I'm sitting with catch them. I've never caught them. So all those games that I've been to my whole life, I would love to catch a foul ball or a home run ball, put it on the mantle and like, I got this. So it would be difficult but I think especially on a foul ball, if there's a kid close to you, you've got to give it to him. If you have your own kids, you're the easy out. You give it to one of your own kids. But I would say this: under no circumstance should a grown person jockey for position or outplay a child to catch the ball. If you're sitting in your seat and it comes to you and you reach up and catch it, like then it's a 50-50. You give it away and you keep it. I don't know. But if you put any sort of effort into going away from your seat to get the ball, and there's kids that are also clamoring from that, you're a clown.
Well,
But,
and
like, just
the
like
other thing that we forget about is the old ballpark.
oh goodness, something fell on my chair.
The old ballpark had the grass area.
Right, and all the kids would run out there.
But and my thing is,
you didn't see grown men running out there.
No,
I mean, maybe
not
it
often,
happened,
not
but like
But I told
college
Tracy,
age guys used to be.
I told
high
Tracy
school.
the same thing. I've had one come toward us. In fact, one year we were in the old ballpark, and a bucket of nachos saved my chest because it was line driving to hit one of those helmet nachos, and the cheese went everywhere. It looked like somebody shot us, and I bled out cheese. But it was not. It was just the baseball. But it's almost like a hole in one. You hear these golfers like, people that have played golf forever and they still haven't hit a hole in one.
Right.
And some random guy that plays golf once a year hits one.
Right. It's very similar.
It's similar because
Right.
you've been to a lot of them. You sat in different spots where a ball could come to you, and it just never did. But it was just interesting watching the transaction between the guy that had kids and the lady that was on the date with husband or boyfriend or whatever. And it was almost like in Lord of the Rings.
And you don't know. I mean, she could have kids or grandkids. I don't know how old she was that would really like to get that ball. And so it's like it's not. I mean, and that I think would be the hardest part. If I was at a game like with some friends or without my kids and you caught that ball, you would want to take it home and give it to them. So then the people in the stands might think, well, that guy's being a jerk because he won't give it to that kid. I don't know.
And that is the gamble. That is the gamble you take if you were to, because again, everybody's filming it, everybody's watching it. If you end up becoming the jerk that does take it from the crying kid, and then the Valley swings over and Junior's crying, and they swing it back over to grumpy old crotchety guy that's gonna tell somebody Babe Ruth did it.
Josh will just get in their face like, "It's for my kids, it's for my boys."
But like I said,
how do you pick? Which
Well, it just goes in
the
room.
see,
Put it on the shelf.
You don't ever need to catch one.
But I mean, the whole thing is, like I said, I think you are a clown if, as an adult, you do any sort of maneuvering to beat a kid to a ball. Like if it bounces off something that's rolling over here, and you
block him out.
You beat the kid to the ball. No. But if it just comes to you, if it's a pop-up foul ball and you're standing there and you just can catch it, I've been to games where I've seen people in there's a bank of seats that don't really have anybody in it. The ball's over there. They just kind of gingerly walk over there and pick it up. All right,
I'm running. Nothing gingerly is happening.
So we got about 30 seconds. Are you going to bring a glove guy?
Oh, no. Kids are allowed to. If I will make fun of you to your face if I ever see you carrying a baseball glove into a baseball game.
I can't wait till we all go.
So is that the equivalent of the jersey?
It's worse than a jersey.
Worse than a jersey, but
because you're carrying a glove and looking like a doofus for a 1 in a million chance that a ball might be hit to you, and then you're not just you got to give it to the kid anyway. So why carry your glove?
Here's the deal about the glove, and
just let it go.
Here's the deal about the glove, and we're going to come back for Missy's bag. You got
to carry your nachos and your beer and your glove. How are you doing that?
But here's the other pressure that comes with the glove.
It is very hard to do all of it.
The pressure of the glove is
if
you drop it,
you might as well go home.
Yes, you can drop it barehanded.
What brand of the glove? What brand of glove are you bringing?
I mean,
it's so hard.
I'll be bringing
so many things. And what are you going to wear? This is getting difficult.
Once you're 18, it's like you're no longer allowed to go to the kiddie land. I mean, you cannot bring your glove to a ball game. I will make fun of you.
Well, we're going to probably be made fun of in a moment when Missy opens up her bag right after this.
It's great. We got Whataburger today. What?
Well,
what a treat.
Mike is on. I'm gonna go check that
It is
deal.
a sad day.
What's 750? You've done 750 Peloton races?
That's like a big deal in Peloton world. Maybe not to y'all, but
I don't think
750 of anything is called commitment, baby. Okay?
That is.
Commitment. Commitment. Yeah. Commitment. That's big. Crazy. Yeah. 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 Mark's well, you know, Mark's a.m. So get out to Mulligan's, 1166 Ben Ritchie Drive. All right, guys. I think y'all are going to be okay with this one. I really do. I do. Okay. You're down by 6 in the Super Bowl. There's 1 second left in regulation, and you're on the 50-yard line. You can select any active player in the NFL right now for a Hail Mary. Who are you taking?
Well, you really need two. You got to have somebody
We're going to say to throw or to catch?
To catch.
So,
You are looking for who is going to catch that Hail Mary.
man, I'm trying to think of some height. I mean, Jefferson's got to be up there. I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
Jefferson is definitely.
Uh,
Because all time I'd go Randy Moss, but I can't do that apparently.
I would either go Randy Moss or Gronk. He would take a minute to get down there, but just let him clear everybody out.
Take a minute to get down there.
1 second. Remember, 1 second.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, it's gotta be someone with speed and.
Well, the good thing about 1 second, and unfortunately I've seen a team lose with 3 seconds last year, but with 1 second, now for me from a defensive stand, I'm sending the house. But for the most part, they prevent it, probably rush 3, so you're going to have time to wait around and get the ball chunked. So, and I'm glad you bring up football because we're not far.
I know. I'm like, I have to bring up some. We have to talk about football.
Well, it's coming. I mean, training camps are on its way. High school football will have their 2 days kicking off soon, and Friday Night Lights will be here again along with everything else. But to answer the question as far as receivers in the game right now, because let's just start. Josh, who would you say is the number 1 receiver in the league right now?
I would agree. It's Jefferson. But
I mean, I think that's the person that you're going to select if it's in your fantasy draft and it's time to pick one. You're probably going to pick that person. You're going to probably pick Jefferson to be that guy, in the draft, or in to be that person. But I'm kind of going blank on some of the other receivers. I don't think you go with anybody. I don't think there's a Cowboy on there. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's fast; he's going to get down there, but I don't think he's the guy that.
Well, he makes some good. He
Yeah.
makes some good catches. I mean, of the Cowboys receivers, I mean, I think he's the guy that you go to in that position.
Oh yeah, he's definitely the Cowboy that you pick. I think.
Oh yeah.
But I do think that like Jamar Chase is in that for me, he's not the tallest guy, I don't guess. I mean, he's 5'11", 6 foot. So
Well, and you can't pick a guy like Tyreek Hill, even though he's going to be down there before
yeah,
everybody
he's
else.
really short.
Travis Kelce's probably not a bad pick to again, thinking Gronk, creating up a little bit of room and getting up in the air. But when you start thinking about dominant receivers, whether it's Keenan Allen, you start thinking about those guys of who you want to get the ball. Oh, I'll throw this out. The problem is you don't know who's throwing it to him right now. Devontae Adams would be a good one.
Yes. He's on my list.
Or Garrett Wilson. It's a tough one because, one, they've got to be able to get up there and go get it. If it was 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I'd say Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Big, tall, lanky
Amari
receiver.
Cooper might be on that list too, and he's made some.
DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is the one that caught the big one against a few years ago. So my final answer will be Devontae.
I'll go Justin Jefferson, but I mean, there's several. But having that guy that can like really reach out and catch with his hands, obviously, is what has to happen. Get down the field with speed, there's a lot that goes through it, But ultimately, it's like getting in that pile and getting your hands on the ball and holding on to it. So,
who's yours, Misty?
I think I'm going Travis Kelce. Because especially this last year, we saw him make all kinds of, that one, he just kept going, and it was just like a bauble fest, and he still comes up with it.
Well,
so I'm going to go Travis Kelce, but we can also spin this and say, okay, of all time. So any player. So we've got our current player. Now what about just NFL history? Who are you picking?
I'm probably picking somebody.
Randy Moss is way up there on the list.
Obviously Jerry Rice. He's not.
Yeah.
Irvin would be a big, lanky, tall receiver. He didn't catch a Hail Mary.
Calvin Johnson.
Megatron would probably be one of those two that I would pick for that, just because he was such a big dude. He would probably be one that I would go for. Stephon Diggs caught the Minnesota Miracle. It wasn't a Hail Mary. But it was the one where the guy literally old lady in the most famous pass Case Keenum will ever throw. But the Hail Mary thing, it's
Chris Carter also is a guy that I think could catch very difficult.
He was known. He only catches touchdowns.
Yeah.
Going Cowboys, how much stock would you put in Dez? Would he be a contender for you?
Prime. Well, if you go with like prime Dez, yes. I mean, because he had those just
He's still caught it, people.
strong
He's
hands.
Still got it.
Michael Irvin, is a guy that I think you can throw in there. But then also with the Cowboys, and now I just lost his name.
Harvard.
No, number 81. Why did I lose
Terrell
his name?
Owens?
Terrell Owens.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, that guy was all-time freak.
Any Odell Beckham chatter? I mean, he's got the crazy
Yeah,
one-handed
he made that
catches.
crazy catch against the Cowboys, and suddenly he was a superstar, and that really frustrated me.
Oh, he skyrocketed like it was the first dunk over a car.
Yeah.
He literally became the first guy to ever dunk over a car, is what that felt like. But yeah, when you start thinking about that, the Hail Mary, and we're about to have Coach Hodge on, so maybe you can pick it up, Josh, as a research guy. You think that it's crazy, almost impossible, like you see people with all this game's over. But it'd be interesting to know how many games have literally been won on the Hail Mary. Just in the NFL, college, you could go into that too, from Doug Flutie's toss to Cordell Stewart's toss in a Notre Dame.
Doug Flutie's toss is what got it the name Hail Mary.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how many games have actually been won by a Hail Mary where, would it be interesting to know half-court shots by beyond half-court game winners and Hail Marys. Who's won more games by that shot or by that throw?
Because there's obviously a vast majority of failures on those half-court shots on the Hail Marys. Just that.
Right.
But then even to get to that situation where you're down by 1 or down by 6 or 2 or 7, like if it's just to tie it, to get to that situation and then have the ball with the time to even pull that off.
All right, I want you to think about this because we got to go to break and get Coach Hodge on. Hail Mary, half-court shot, walk-off grand slam, where you're down 3 and the grand slam wins. Of those 3, which ones do you think?
Oh, this is
rank
easy
those.
for me.
Rank those. When we come back, we'll have Coach Hodge. We'll have our Big Country Electric My Town segment. Knowing is half the battle. We're going to get that in before Misty closes, and then we will have tons more to cover. But when we come back, our Big Country Electric My Town segment brought to you by Big Country Electric Co-op. Right after this.
It's every time. So funny.
Is it hot in there?
real quick, talk about what the difference is being in Knox City, being at Stanford, where everything revolves around what's happening on Friday nights, and then when basketball gets here, what's happening on Tuesdays and Fridays. What kind of difference did you see in the community aspect from being in a smaller town and then being in Lubbock, where there's a lot of other things going on?
Yeah, definitely a lot more community involvement. Really, a lot more around. You get into a bigger schools, you get a lot more specialization in the sports, so you don't see the same thing on a Friday night as you would see on a Tuesday night for a basketball game or the spring for baseball game. That's the biggest difference in terms of community is learn now. Don't get me wrong, that's the community is definitely not for kids and want to win. It's just you and the specialization is the biggest difference. For part of kids are kids. They want to win. They want to do well. They want to be coached. But it's more of a transition from Stanford to Lubbock for kids. It's a big change, but the fact is that we've had so many winners at Lubbock and now it's
Well, we talked about it on the intro about how Mac Brown leaves Texas and goes to ESPN, and next thing you know, he gets a call to go back to North Carolina where he had some success and it started to have that success again early on. And we were comparing you to him, and one of the things that has been big in coaches that have been in places a long time, like Coach Sanford at Wiley, now Coach Martin there too, and Denny Faith. Talk about getting that call to come back to Stanford and adding Coach Templeton this past week as well.
Yeah, so I'm still looking to get back to Stanford again because so I just finished remodeling my house, and I was actually finished. I've been finished for about 2 weeks. I was looking to maybe get a part-time job because my wife is still she's teaching part-time at St. Creek, and so I'm looking for a part-time job. But this job just kind of popped open. I get a phone, kind of sparked my interest, and when I thought about it, I was like, well, I know I still got a lot of years in me, so I feel like I can still make a difference. And I feel like I'm young enough, and I'm going to get a part-time job being old enough. Why not just do a full-time job, do something that you love, that you don't feel like you're going to work every day. And so make the decision to get back into coaching. I think it was a really good decision. I'm already really excited about being around the kids and the coaches there in Stanford, and trying to build the staff that you talked about, Coach Templeton. I'm really lucky to be able to talk to him out of retirement as well. Come join the staff, so that's going to be really good for Stanford in that program as well.
Well, and talk a little bit about, I've noticed had a good week at the Lyman thing at Hardin Simmons the other day. And what excites you? What do you see that's in this group that you're taking over that maybe, it's one thing that you've been there and you built the program to where it was when you left, but now coming in and almost maybe restarting and rekindling and moving it into the direction that it once was when you were there the first time, and the success you turned around at Monterey.
Yeah, so I've been really impressed with the kids' their work ethic and the weight room and how strong they are. So obviously the coaching staff previously and the ones that are still on our staff have done a really good job of getting the kids in the weight room and getting them strong. And I'm really excited about that aspect. And then once we went out on the field, we can do good skills in the summer now. And that's
Well, and one more thing, and again, I want you to continue to enjoy vacation because I know coaching school and painting fields and all that thing is around the corner. But coaching right now, and I've said all along, I've told you when we were on the air before we came on, that there's parts of coaching I miss. I've said all along, there's not a better brotherhood or fraternity than Texas coaches. But we have started to see some of the good coaches get out of it and maybe harder to hire and get into the profession. What would you say about the coaching profession now, and maybe some of our listeners that are in college or want to be coaches, that it's still a great thing to do?
Yeah, I think you got to get in for the right reasons. I still think it's a fun, and I still think you have to go to this trying to make a difference and kids and teach them things that will carry on later in life. Because if you don't have that aspect about it, you can really get burned out because this profession has turned into a 365-day-a-year job. Once you got came in and said, maybe you can do summer strength and conditioning. You can do skills for an hour in the summer, and it forced, forced coaches to have to work year round now. And some school districts don't compensate coaches in the summer, but if you don't go up in the summer and you don't get your kids in that strength and conditioning and get them involved in the summer, then you take the chance of your program getting behind. So it's a lot more about than it used to be. The classroom, you put the class top of the classroom, and then I think young coaches that are coming out, they're expecting a big paycheck, and it just doesn't happen your first, 1 or 2 years, 3 or 4 or 5 years of coaching. You want to see a decent salary until you're in it for about 10 or 15 years, and I think that's one of the reasons where we have the shortage of coaches across the state of Texas right now. You got to get in the profession, you got to love it, and then you got to stay in it to benefit anything financially. So, but again, it's not about that. It's about the give. It's about trying to make a difference, and that's what it's all about.
Well, I agree, and again, it's one of the best professions out there. And Coach, I appreciate you joining us this morning on vacation. I know that you're excited. I'm sure the community of Stanford's excited, and look forward to watching you and seeing the success that you have in round 2 being at Stanford. But I appreciate it and look forward to maybe having you back on during the season. All right, again, that's Coach Wayne Hutchinson, the renewed head football coach at Stanford, as he gets ready to take the Bulldogs in his direction and maybe one day be back at Jerry World. When we come back, we'll look at knowing is half the battle with Josh right after this. Coach, I appreciate you.
Just an energy cooperative, we all think about it the same way. The co-op is power. Sure, electricity.
Thanks, Coach. We'll see you.
But power is the information from the co-op about efficiency, safety, technology, and I trust the co-op because we are a co-op.
Our neighbors.
Our friends. Our friends. You know what the most important part of Big Country Electric Co-op is? Call, stop by our offices in Wilton, Snyder, and Stanford, or visit online at bigcountry.com. Hello, Abilene and the Big Country. Keith Glover here with This Building Resources Incorporated. I'm here to let you know about our document destruction and paper shredding business. Our services include routine pickup, purges, or we accept drop-offs at our state-of-the-art, safe, and secure facility. Our folks at DRI, or better known as the DRI Shredders, are here to assist and serve you in the destruction of your most private documents or just those annoying stacks of boxes you've had piled up over the years. Give us a call at 325-232-6868 or come on out and see us at 3602 North Clark Street. You'll be glad you did, and I know the DRI Shredders will too.
Tastes like summertime, Texas. Miller Lite, the original light beer, first brewed and raised in Texas since 1975, is fueling your Texas barbecue all summer long. Visit itsmillertimetx.com for your chance to win a custom mill-scale Yakitori grill or other cool swag. Nothing says summertime like some Texas barbecue and a nice cold beer. Cheers to celebrating the summer with Miller Lite. Head to itsmillertimetx.com today. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas. Celebrate responsibly.
Have you enjoyed the Tulsa Live experience yet? If not, you're missing one of the best atmospheres around. With amazing food, great
great drinks, live music, TVs to watch your favorite sporting events. The Potosi Live team will make sure you have the experience that you're going to tell your friends about. Check out PotosiLive.com or go like and make Potosi Live on Facebook for their upcoming live music and ticket events. Head out to Potosi at 897 FM 1750 for the Potosi Live experience. When it comes to finding the right vehicle for you, there's no better place than the Lawrence Hall of Abilene. In over 33 years, Lawrence Hall of Abilene has been the place to find the best GMC Buick and Chevy, and that is still true today. Great products and great service too. So the next time you need a new car, truck, or SUV, come see us or visit us online at Lawrence Hall of Abilene, TX.com. One of Abilene's best new car dealers for the 28 years, right you like customers.
Hi, I'm Sharon Riley. Here in Abilene, folks have lots of options for eating out, from large chains to locally owned mom and pops like us. I want you to know we really appreciate your business and are always striving for wonderful food, service, and prices. So we listen to you and have updated our menu. Bring
Dude,
I'm sure.
in case y'all are wondering, not a dude.
Well, you can just decide that whenever you want.
Yeah, I know, but yeah. I mean, I'm staying the way I am.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Hodgeback as we keep staying the way we are each and every Friday morning. Hey, want to encourage you, don't forget to head over to HodgebackSports.com where you can check us out. Our podcasts are there if you missed a show or want to listen to something. Also, you can head over to check out our YouTube channel. Of course, we got HodgebackSports.com. You can buy our hats, all the things, a lot of options. Head over to HodgebackSports.com. And Josh, it's now time for one of our favorite segments that we started. It's been a while, but it is time for.
Yes, knowing is half the battle. And sometimes you just got to know, I guess, when to keep your mouth shut. That's in general.
I
You could
feel
go.
attacked.
You could go. Oh, it's not you.
It's not you.
I feel like in general that's a good idea.
And I'm going to be willing to defend myself.
You know, you
Go ahead.
can.
Oh no.
You're being presumptive.
He
Look, there's only three of us in the room.
It's not.
He's not wrong.
Knowing when to speak, just in general, is something that Hodge is not good at. But in particular, there's he has become, he's become my scapegoat. he is particularly, the sacrificial fan for the Texas Rangers. He's not going to be allowed to watch the Rangers anymore if he keeps his mouth running. Because really there was I had three choices to react to his things I cannot say on air.
But go ahead. I'll defend myself.
Well, you can defend yourself all you want. You're wrong. I could yell at the children, kick the dog, or defan Hodge. And now that's the choice that I've made.
You're welcome, Rip and Rosie.
It is,
D, all of the above.
Luke,
because you
Molly,
can't,
you're welcome.
you cannot, under any circumstance, have a hot sports opinion that is a jinx. It is not allowed. It is bad. Hodge the other day shares his hot sports opinion.
For the record,
During
it's just
the
a
game.
question. It was a question.
Oh no, it was an HSO coming in super hot. Like you might as well have been like on some like geeked out like fan site typing away while you're watching the
I
game.
like that HSO.
Yes.
That was cute.
So
He didn't create it.
I did not create it.
But I love it.
You cannot jinx your team with a hot sports opinion. You have to share your opinions at the proper time. By questioning 2 innings in advance who's coming in to pitch the 9th, you jinx the 9th, and we lost. And now you can't be a fan anymore.
Well, so
You can opinion after the game. You can Monday morning quarterback all you want. You can not eat black-eyed peas on New Year's and have your own bad luck. You cannot jinx, juju bad my team.
Or juice. Juicy
That,
is also
I can make a lot of different words up and mesh them together. They're new words.
well, so they do have. I don't believe in.
Yes, because he doesn't believe it. He can go ahead and jinx me.
He doesn't know. We
That
had
is-
this
that is-
conversation.
that is
He's
incredibly
not
selfish.
superstitious.
That's why you're D-fan.
I'm superstitious. But
No,
you're not.
I'm
We
glad
talked about
Bally's does not play at your house.
this. Ooh,
That was a sick
that
bird.
was a burn.
It was a burn. So, but we do hear those things, and it's interesting that you bring it up. So here was the situation. On Monday at the game, again, Dallas Chapman comes in. Good night, Almighty, so big guy, and he pitches great in the 8th. He comes to the 9th, and Will Smith, not the Man in Black, but the other Will Smith.
For the Dodgers.
No, but the Will Slap from Chris Rock comes in and pitches, and unfortunately doesn't. We don't win. And I guess my frustration on me being the scapegoat is, and I'm about to puff Josh up a little
As
bit.
soon as Aroldis Chapman comes in the game, Hodge text, do you think Chapman should be the closer or the 8th inning guy and switch with Smith?
Oh, so y'all weren't together. This was
No.
via text.
So
Yeah.
I'm watching
So he
the game.
put it in writing. He put his jinx
Oh
in writing.
my
So
gosh,
Chapman pitched well, and then the 9th inning comes out, and Will Smith goes in. My fault for not having access to Bally's. Okay, but in all that, I looked at Josh, Evan, and Grant and Snead as my, and that's probably the hierarchy. No offense to anybody that finished after Josh. Of my Ranger insider. He is my Jared
Oh, yeah.
Sandler. He is my Emily
Josh
Jones.
is
He
number
is my
one.
Chuck Morgan. He is the Newberg Report.
Yes, that's a lot.
That is
Oh,
who
well,
I
That is a lot
that
of
is who,
pressure.
that's who I look at when I look at Josh. I can ask Josh, who's playing in the Rangers C Team League in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and he can know who it is.
Am I watching a romance right now?
No, what I'm saying is that question was more of an analytical thing, not of I don't think Will Smith should go in. I was literally getting him and Snead and Grant's thoughts on if he was Bruce Bochy, what would he do? Now, where I think you see the jinx in, you always say, what do you not do if something's happened in baseball?
You don't talk about
Yeah,
it.
don't.
To the no-hitter guy.
Yeah, you don't talk about it.
You don't talk
That's
about
what I'm
it.
saying.
Right.
You can have your opinion that they should switch roles, and I wouldn't even argue with you that much. But I do defend that Smith is in that role because he's done it well so far this season. That's
So are
been
you
the one
just-
spot in our bullpen
so-
that hasn't sucked.
So, and I would say this. I will give you the credit on my timing of the question being wrong.
Yeah, that's the jinx. That's
So
the
don't
jinx.
say it while the game is going.
But number two, I would have asked that question if Will Smith comes in and does win. I would have asked the same question: Is do you think
You can ask that after the game. You can't jinx it during the game.
Keyword is after.
because you do see it sometimes they call it the announcer's jinx.
Oh yeah.
Like on golf, they're like Justin Thomas has not has made 28 putts in a row from 4 feet.
Yeah.
And
Well, and yesterday I was watching the Rangers play at Boston, and Dave Raymond, the play-by-play guy, said, "Here comes the light-hitting catcher for the Boston Red Sox," and then he misses a home run off the monster by like 6 inches.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
slams
that's real
it.
light-hitting.
so what are some other So knowing it's at the battle is Josh's take is don't say anything that could jeopardize the.
You don't have a hot sports opinion as a jinx. You can have that opinion. You talk about it after the game. Monday morning quarterbacking is it's what sports talk radio is about. It's what everyone talks about the Cowboys. Obviously at work on Monday and what went wrong, and you can talk about pitchers that went into the game or decisions that were made on lineups and all that type of stuff. I just think if you do it during the game, it's a jinx. It's not productive. It's never productive. We don't really have any outcome, swaying ability. But maybe we do.
I was fixing to say, based on your two thoughts, we do.
I hate whenever Clay is really bad about this when we're watching the Cowboys. He's like, oh my God, it's like a minute in. And granted, sometimes there has been some games with the Cowboys and you're like, seriously? There's already been, 2 interceptions.
Oh, yeah, the first drive,
right.
You're like, oh, this is crap.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Bullying.
Yes, quit being so dang negative. And so I take it personal. I'm like, those are my Cowboys. It's like they're talking about my kids. Like, no. And so I get mad at him. I'm like, stop being so freaking negative.
So, see, Tracy's mom, and sometimes Tracy will do this one. Like 4th and 1 doesn't get converted in the first drive.
Turn off the TV.
Yes, no.
Turn it on the Hallmark channel. Something else, yeah.
So basically, what I'm hearing is it's Tracy and Clay's fault that we haven't made it to another Super Bowl.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I was thinking.
Maybe we'll have to vote them off the fan island.
It's not.
Hodge is gone for the Rangers. He's gone. He's no longer a fan.
This is a hot button.
I am a big Rangers fan.
Not anymore.
No, you're not.
Hey, not big enough to go get their, not enough to get Valleys. But I am a fan.
It's not that hard. Just get DirecTV. It's like you pay for YouTube. Just pay for DirecTV instead.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Can I just cancel it after the Rangers? I don't need
you can do that.
Just don't watch it.
I think you can
with
cancel
Josh.
it and turn it back on anytime. That's one thing I do like about the streaming services. I did cancel Hulu and they blacked out the Cowboys game. I canceled it immediately. I don't know if you remember that. That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think I had it then.
NBC's the problem with them.
Yeah.
DirecTV's the NBC problem. Well, don't jinx anybody. Knowing it's at the battle. When we come back, Jerry Jones, 10 episodes. What would we want to know about Jerry? And we'll talk about the quarterbacks that we're going to be following as well right after this. Okay.
I love that.
taking your shirt off? What's going on?
Okay, enjoy. I'm sad I'm missing Jerry Jones segment.
You are sad.
So, yeah. Welcome back to the Hodgeback Sports Live and everything in between right here on 106.9 The Country Giant. Hey, don't forget Potosi Live. Head over to PotosiLive.com as we're hanging out in the Potosi Live studio. They've got a lot of stuff coming up. Be on the lookout. They've got a Potosi Fest that's coming up in September. They'll be making announcements about that. They've got dueling piano tomorrow night. Don't know if they've got tickets still available for that, but they've got some other great concerts coming up, great shows. So head over to PotosiLive.com and follow them on Facebook as well as they get ready for it. They got the Band of Heathens coming August 24th. They got Reed Southall, Glenn Templeton, Midnight River Choir. So go check them out at PotosiLive.com. Great food, great atmosphere, and great shows. So go check them. Check them out and go enjoy some great food. Stephanie, Donovan, and Moy work their tails off. And so they do a great job. Appreciate Chris bringing some of those great shows to Abilene. Josh, Netflix has been one of those things that's been kind of fun. Not Netflix, but just when Rona happened, one of the things that saved sports radio, saved the sports fan, if you will, was The Last Dance. And they did it in such a way that Last Dance was, I think it was 10 episodes, and they didn't release them all at once. It brought you back to the old days where you waited for a show to come on a Thursday night.
I think that's the way it should be. And most,
Netflix
was the only one that really did the just like straight drop.
You know how much more sleep people would get if you were not able to binge? Like I'm watching Suits right now. Suits, if you want a good, it's a lawyer show. It's pretty good. It's comic. There's some funny parts about it, but it's a really good show, and it was on USA for a long time, and then Meghan Markle decided to go marry part of the royal family, so it had to stop. But it's been put on Netflix. So I started season 1. I'm like into season 4, and like last night, I couldn't go to sleep because a twist had happened in the plot, and it drew me in. But can you imagine how much sleep people would get back if binging was gone?
Well, I mean, yeah, there have been a few times that I have. I just watched a little bit more because but I've learned not to do that. You know how I convinced myself not to do that? Every time you're watching a show and there's a big major like dun dun dun, you're like, okay, I've got to watch the next episode. I don't know what happened. Like did he get killed? Is he alive? Did they fall off the cliff? Whatever the case may be. It comes back to the next episode, and they lead in with the and then we go to a different storyline for a second. It's never just pick it up and see
because Yellowstone has done that. Now you can go back and rewatch all the series of Yellowstone, but Yellowstone was kind of that too. Once here's one, it kicks off June whatever is the
and all the shows that have come on, at least that I can remember, that have come on like Amazon Prime, like Jack Ryan is one that they just release one at a time. All the Star Wars things that they do on Disney is they come out one a week, like a traditional. Now, the thing is, a lot of times I catch myself like, oh, that show started again? And then I have, 6 episodes to watch by the time I've realized that it's back on. But I think that's the way it should be, that it should release one at a time, build that anticipation, because that is something I think we miss from, like you said, from the old days. The other thing I miss is having the return channel button.
That is one of the things that
I hate watching streaming.
Now, I will say,
I can't just back and forth between 2 games.
I will say that on Hulu, one of the good things is you go to your recents, and
push up arrow.
It's a little bit easier.
It's close.
But anyway, so The Last Dance came out, and it was kind of a big deal. And now Netflix, we've seen with Full Swing, they've done it with golf, and now they've got a series set to release next week. Debuting a series, the NFL on Netflix.
That's your phone talking to you.
Yeah.
Your phone can't understand you, which is not surprising.
No, not at all. But next week they launched a series about Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota. Patrick Mahomes makes sense. He's got obviously a great career, Super Bowl champ, and somewhat controversial wife. Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota. The Patrick Mahomes makes sense. I don't know if those other two would have been the people I would have picked to join that from a quarterback perspective.
Well, but it depends on, I guess, what you're going for, because it kind of covers the spectrum of, like, you've got Mahomes,
Basically,
the kind of the reigning quarterback du jour, I guess. And then Kirk Cousins, who's been around for a while and has been a starter and has, maintained his being a long-term starter, but never a true superstar. And then you've got Mariota, who has been flashes and then back up. He was thought of so highly out of Oregon. Was going to be a franchise guy.
Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, and then it doesn't work out. He's a backup, and then he gets to be a starter again, and then he's a backup. So it's kind of three complete different.
You're actually.
So it's like you kind of
right,
see different.
You've got superstar. You've got middle of the road guy, and then you got a guy that kind of was but never made it.
Yeah.
So it is similar.
Kirk Cousins, I think, is the most like just bleh,
right,
like
that
quarterback.
Did just enough.
He's been a starter for a long time. He's never bad enough to lose his job. He won the job when got to start, I guess, when RG3 got injured. And then he's been a starter ever since then. But he's never taken that next step.
So it is similar. Patrick Mahomes is your Justin Thomas, Jordan Speed, Brooks Koepka. Then you've got Joel Damon, who's in the middle, that's kind of making a little bit, and just like he says, somebody's got to be ranked 70th in the world.
Yeah. And
then Marcus Mariota is the guy that's trying to get back on, trying to get back rolling. So maybe it'll be good. And my thing is, I like behind the scenes stuff, and I don't watch a whole lot of wrestling anymore, but like AEW has this AEW, which is another branch of a wrestling organization. They have, and the only reason to say that, I've seen All Access, and A&E started doing this behind the scenes stuff on wrestling and all that. I like that stuff because it does take you maybe into some of the things you want to know, and that's why I asked. So we bring all this up because this past Monday, Netflix obtained the rights to a 10-episode docuseries about the Dallas Cowboy owner Jerry Jones and his teams of the 90s. So I'm wondering, is there footage that we're going to see? Is there things like we saw with The Last Dance that we're going to learn about?
I would hope so.
And as well as I do, Josh, there are some videos that if I'm ex-players of those 90s Cowboys, what was the place? Not the White House, but that I would think they'd be nervous about.
Oh, well, yeah, I can see that.
And then from a Jerry Jones perspective, what would you like to see? What are some things that you think might be interesting from learning about Jerry Jones? Because he is a guy that is out there. He appears on shows. He's, as soon as the game is over, they're interviewing him, win or lose.
Yeah.
On his way to his chopper or on his way to his jet or on the way to his limo. They're interviewing Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is one of the reasons why the quarterbacks and the players from other teams and every organization is making the money they're making is because Jerry Jones. What are some things you want to see and hopefully get from the series from the 90s and maybe even today's Jerry Jones?
Well, I think that, love him or hate him, Jerry Jones is somebody that has, made a huge impact in the sport. And he's also, he's one of those true, wildcatter guys, just seeing his background and how he got to where he's at, I think is interesting. I think it's like, it's like Dallas, the TV show, but in real life,
right. Charlotte's one of the ladies. And you got Daddy Ewing.
Yeah.
Son Joe.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like, there's so many, and I don't know all the ins and outs of his upbringing and where he got to where he is now, but he truly is one of those, he is a true American success story, to be elite level wealthy now and, just have the amount of, the money that He doesn't really have to care what other people think, and it shows.
Right, and and some of the things that I would like to see is, I don't think there was any tape, and one of the biggest reasons that people do not like Jerry Jones is that he got rid of Tom Landry.
Right.
Is there any documentation? Is there any stuff in reading this on the Inside the Star? It says on Monday I mentioned the 10 episodes. Netflix paid nearly $50 million in a bidding war with ESPN and others, and so they've got this. It says, haven't said they're going to look at the '90s. It's going to have a Last Dance feel. Is what kind of '90s footage? What was it like trying to make the deals the Herschel Walker deal? Will we get some of that info?
Mm-hmm.
Will we get some of the info of bringing on Deion Sanders? What was it like having the conversation with Bill Parcells? What Jimmy Johnson news will we get out of the two, out of those episodes? And honestly, I saw somebody post on Twitter and said, man, do we really need 10 episodes? And I threw out Jerry Jones as a guy. You need a series, maybe 1 or 2 seasons of this, because Jerry Jones, when it comes to hard knocks, when it comes to not having a filter, when it comes to saying things that just come, he's the guy you want.
Yeah.
And so,
and he, as you mentioned, he put in things that made a lot of people a lot of money by the way he has marketed the NFL and the way that he kind of, in a lot of ways, ushered in that. And so to some extent, people say it's a bad thing with the Cowboys, but like the Cowboys experience is almost more important than winning or losing the game. I don't think that's actually how he feels, but that is a criticism of him.
Right. He wants you to have an experience of when you come into that stadium, there's a reason it's big, it's the reason it's nice, it's the reason it's got the art gallery, it's the reason it's got all the things that it has, because that means something to him. Now, I do think internally he does want to win another Super Bowl.
I don't doubt at all he really wants to win. There are people that say, well, as long as he makes money, he doesn't care. And that is a criticism I hear. I don't think that.
But I think he's going to make money regardless.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to make money regardless, I do think winning that next Super Bowl is important. And so, anyway, Jerry Jones docuseries coming out, the one with Marcus Mariota, Kirk Cousins, and Patrick Mahomes coming out next week. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show and we'll start looking into what we can expect. Rangers heading into the All-Star break. All the things right after this. Welcome back to the Hodgeback as we get ready to head into the weekend. Hope you have great plans, exciting plans. Don't forget, Misty mentioned Mulligan's has a fundraiser tomorrow for Joey. So if you can head to Mulligan's tomorrow and help raise some money, that'd be great. Again, we want to appreciate and thank Coach Wayne Hutchinson for taking time on his vacation to talk some Stanford Bulldog football, high school football right around the corner. Again, coaches will be going to coaching school the next couple of weeks. 2-a-day starting, some schools starting earlier than normal, and so that'll be here before you know it. So be sure you check out. We'll get this week's show uploaded on our podcast channel at both. You can head over to hodgepacksports.com where you can see those, or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And then we'll also get uploaded the show that we had at Abilene Country Club a couple weeks ago with Kelly Whaley and Bishan from the WAPT and all that. So be sure you check those out. Again, hodgepacksports.com is our website where you can check out our YouTube channel, Facebook Live. I encourage you to head over to YouTube. We'll start to see some more things there. So be sure you check that out. And of course, you can get a hat, order a hat off of that as well. So a couple of headlines I want to remind you about. Don't forget that the U.S. Open's having this week. First time ever for the ladies playing at Pebble Beach. Mav signed Kyrie Irving and also Grant Williams and Cameron Young, currently 3 under, and has got the 9 under leading the John Deere Classic there. A couple other things, Josh, we mentioned it earlier in our baseball stuff. We didn't get to it. I thought it was pretty interesting, and you mentioned it, things kind of tip over. You know, you start getting things in a game or you start having things in life, and then one thing finally happens and it just sets you off. Well, that's what happened to Dave Ross, the manager for the Cubs, was having a rough day with the behind the plate umpire, and then he just goes off on the guy because the Brewers decide to open or close the roof. Close the roof to get rid of some shadows, and he lost it. Can you think of another weird way or weird reason anybody's ever gotten ejected in any sport like we have?
No, that was weird, but at the same time, I mean, it's weird to get ejected over that, but at the same time, honestly, I think he has a point. If you're going to play the game with the roof open, it has to stay open the whole time. I don't think it should be allowed to, like back and forth it, because it does change the way things are played. And that might give a benefit to one team or the other depending on how those that conditions work. So
well, I mean, I know there wasn't anything closed, but lights may matter how things appear. Ask the University of Texas. They lost a College World Series game because they lost it in the lights. And so the only way I would say that the closing of a roof during a game would be if a storm is coming and you're going to not finish it. Would that change your mind? Or would you say let it rain and we'll start it again tomorrow?
I think that if there's a chance of rain, you just need to shut it from the start because it does change the way the game's played. And that could be the difference in like you said, losing the ball on the lights or when did they decide to close the roof? It's like, there's rain. It might rain in 5 minutes, and then maybe it rains, maybe it doesn't. Or do they start closing the roof after it started raining? So then there's one team in the field when it starts raining, and then they're like, oh no, close the roof, and then the other team doesn't have to be in the field when it's raining. I mean, I don't think that the whole thing with having a roof, the obvious benefit is that it is climate controlled. You don't have to worry about and obviously in Arlington, going to that old stadium, it was way too hot. It hurt their attendance numbers because it was too hot.
And we talked about this on the way out when we were leaving the game on Monday, and we were walking by the old park. Here's the deal. That field opened in 1994, Josh. I don't know if the retractable roof was there, availability was there then.
Toronto had the first one. I don't remember what year that they put that in.
But my thing is, well, Minute Maid. Well, Minute Maid was after.
Yeah.
But you knew games happened in June, July, and August when you were building that. If there ever was a time to eliminate that, could have been then.
Oh, and that's one thing I've heard that was George Bush's biggest mistake ever was not making that ballpark either retractable or a closed roof. Just because it was terribly hot in there.
Well, and terribly hot. But here's the thing, Josh. Yesterday, July 6th, out of nowhere, a rainstorm comes and it happened. Now, it wasn't long enough where a short rain delay and you'd have been playing. But as the weather has a mind of its own, the Lord decides, hey, we're going to rain, we're not, whatever. In Texas, it makes sense. But one thing that you can guarantee, not rain, you're going to have heat in the summer. You could not have a 105 start on Monday last week and people be excited to be there if you were across the street.
Right.
And so
I had my seating arrangement planned there based on like not sitting in the sun. I knew where all the shade seats were. And even then it was
because even with the pitch clock, it wouldn't matter. Even with the shorter game, it's not going to matter. If you're going to be an Alsa Burrito standing out there and just be a bait. But I just thought that was interesting. He got tossed. So Josh, All-Star game, will you watch it?
Oh yeah, I'll watch it.
Will you watch the home run derby?
Yes, the new format of the home run derby is much more exciting, and the Golis Garcia's in it, so like I will be interested to see because that guy, obviously you've seen his guns. I mean, he's
a big fella too.
He's got strength, and I've always enjoyed that. I've always watched it. I think the All-Star game is less cool than it used to be, mainly because ever since the advent of interleague, and now that even with the balanced schedules. Used to, when I was a kid, before interleague play was a thing, you'd watch the All-Star game and like the National League guys were like, you didn't even know who those guys were. Right. I mean, you saw them on baseball cards, but like if you watched Rangers games or went to Rangers games, you saw American League guys. You never saw National League guys. So there was a true National League versus American League. There are players that wouldn't switch leagues like in free agency. They wanted to stay in the National League. They wanted to stay in the American League. Now they're so homogenous because there's DH in both, and
should they go? And I know we're running out of time, but should they switch it and be like the NBA, in that you've got Western Conference and Eastern Conference on the team? It's not a Western Conference, Eastern Conference. Could you not do that?
Well, they've talked about doing geographical relocations and just do it away with it, like because now that there's no difference in the two.
I mean, could you do an All-Star game where you just pick 25 random players for each team?
The problem would be, I think, with realigning baseball like that, is you still need to honor some of those long-term, like rivalries. Like you don't. If you were to redo that, you need the Cubs and the Cardinals to be in the same division. You need the Red Sox.
No. I'm talking about the All-Star game. Just
no, you got to do American and National as long as that's a thing. But there is talk about doing away with that and doing a region-based divisions. Where all the teams and like if they did away with the American and National, it'd be the suggestions I saw was you would have maybe like the Rockies, the Rangers, the Astros, the Royals, and the Cardinals. Like all in one geographic area.
I think that'd be a terrible idea. It'd be very similar to what we're going to see in college football, where some of the rivalries go away. Guys, we appreciate you being back with us this morning. We were glad to be back. Misty, Josh, and Hodge. AC, again, shout out to Jones for figuring out a way to get this thing cool. Don't forget, today you got JB Cloud coming up, Greg Austin, of course, High Lonesome, Red Dirt Proud, all this weekend. Keep tuning in to KLGD1069.com. The best music, the best sports radio show you're going to find, of course, James Parker bringing you Jesus as well. We'll be back next Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back next week with more Hodgeback, Sports Life, and everything in between on 106.9